Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to Aware and Ahead. My name is Greg Johnson, and I just wanted to give a little bit of a quick update on things so far with how kind of life has been, I guess you could say, from I know I posted a couple weeks ago, and then even before that with the what do you call it? The hookup video, I guess you could say, or how I call it with that. And the reason that I put out that video is not because it was for a general audience to see. Typically, the reason that this channel is mainly for men, and it's mainly for boys who are wanting to become men and who are wanting to really be self-developed and really get an idea of, hey, here's part of my journey. This is where my journey has taken me, and this is or part of the things that I'm going through. And it's more of a process to show with that, and that was a really big thing that had happened. And so the point of that video, again, it's not really for any like a generic audience, quote unquote. It's for a lot of men where typically the problem with the manosphere or with like red pill content or all this type of stuff is that typically a lot of the men who do those types of things are very hurt men. They are very broken. They're very traumatized from their past. And a lot of them, then what they do is they use that as a reason to be able to be very rude to women and to not really treasure them, in a sense of how your value comes from how many women you have sex with, and then a woman's value is how many she doesn't have sex with. And I don't really agree with that. I agree that just as an individual partners and everything, the less likelihood of how many partners you've had, the better in a lot of ways. Yes, you could debate with experience and all that type of stuff, but I'm not getting into that argument right now. But so the point of that is because a lot of those men who are trying to get into that channel and are trying to learn about those types of things, they think that their value comes from having sex with a lot of women. And I wanted to clear that up on how, even though that wasn't what I was doing, I had a girlfriend at the time and everything else, right? This is still a consequence to having sex. And if you aren't married or anything like that, the consequence of having a kid, and it's not a mistake, it's not a problem, it's a consequence to the actions. Consequences can be negative and positive. It's kind of either or. It's just more of your interpretation of them. And for myself at the time, it was a very low place for me, and a lot of guys need to realize that, and they need to see and realize, oh shit, this is what happens, or this is a high likelihood or possibility that if I keep sleeping with a whole bunch of women, this may happen, because your likelihood does increase every time that you do that with more and more partners, or just the frequency that you're doing it with. So it's specific to young men. I don't really care about people freak out about it, people laugh at it, or whatever. I know that certain people have. And to be frank, I don't give a fuck about you, and I don't give a shit about that. The reason I bring that up is because it was never for you in the first place. It's for men who are on the same journey that I have been, who might be a little bit further behind me, where I'm still at the beginning of a lot of this, right? I'm only in my early 20s, but guys who are just getting into this, and even younger men who are like 12 to 15 years old, who are boys that want to become really high-value men, that's not where your value comes from, and that's not where you having sex with women, that's not where your value comes from. That's icing on the cake from the foundation and the values and everything that you bring to that woman, and hopefully you do that in a respectful way. I'm not telling you how to live your life, but there is a likelihood of chances with that happening. With that being said, it's been a couple months since any update or since I've done anything on that, and to be honest, a big part of it is because of how it was a really dark time for me, and how it was very hard. It was very difficult. It was something that I didn't like to... I kept a lot of things under wraps with it just because of how I was trying to figure out the situation, and I didn't know how things were going to go with the mother of my child, and how that would look. Now, recently, over the past coming weeks, I'm very grateful to say that things are going a lot better, and that we are really working on things, and it looks like, hopefully in the future, through our growth that we've had, and through the period of that darkness, through that lonely period of us both not really communicating with each other, we had to really grow in a lot of ways, and we really had to both be reflective on our own situations and what we were going to do about it. And we're able to come together now, and we're able to actually plan and to be co-parents for now, and hopefully something more in the future. That's the goal. That's the plan. I don't want to just be a co-parent. I want to have an actual family with all of this, right? And that's my goal with this, and that's what I do believe will happen out of it, and I'm very grateful for that. So, but I needed to have that period, and I needed to also create that video to still, while I am grateful for a lot of this, and while I do feel very blessed, and I am grateful for that hardship and for the dark period of basically the summer. It was still hard nonetheless, and there's a lot that can go into that, and I don't want to make this video too long, but basically be really grateful for those problems even when they seem so dark and grim, because if you keep pushing through that, and if you still, like, I was not in a great place, right? I don't want to go into that too deeply, but I was in a very low place. But because I didn't go back to the vices that I used to have, because I didn't go back to drinking, because I didn't go back to smoking, because I didn't go back into other things, there was stuff that I was still using to cope with, which I don't think was healthy. But at the same time, I wasn't going completely back. I didn't lose all the progress that I had made, and I think that's a very valuable point to bring up, is that you may find yourself slipping when life gets really hard. You may find yourself going back to drinking. You may find those things, but that doesn't mean that you never made the progress in the first place, and that doesn't mean that you aren't making progress still. So I wanted to kind of bring that up, and how you can be really grateful for it then. And if you keep wanting to grow, and if you keep really wanting to level yourself up, and to realize that either you have two outcomes from this, you can either grow from it or you can die from it, and die to your vices and become enslaved by those types of things, then a lot of people do that, but that's not me. I'm very fearful of that, and I would rather run away from that life as much as possible, instead of giving back into it in a lot of ways. And this is part of the self-development process, right? Is that we all have a lot of things that go on. We all have a lot of situations, and my problems in my life is nothing compared to shit that people in other places of the world are probably dealing with, right? Like, that is a very first world problem, but it can create a third world society from the first world problem if it's not handled properly, and if you weren't doing anything to be or bettering yourself from it. So yeah, those are just kind of my thoughts and takes on it. I try to have these be a lot more raw, maybe give a subject, but at the end of the day, I don't like having a script, because that's not how I operate. That's not how I really like going about life or going about things. I like to be able to sift through, discuss them, and get it more figured out, I guess. Yeah, and I hope that I'm going to be recording probably a couple more videos today, just while stuff is on my mind. But that's a quick update on that situation, where I'm probably going to name this something like being grateful for the trial, or something like that, just because of how, again, even though it was shit, and even though it really sucked during those times, I am so grateful for that. And I'm so grateful for every time that has been like that, because I found that every time I feel like I hit a new rock bottom, and I haven't committed suicide, or I haven't done completely just thrown myself off the trail, right? Thrown myself off of self-development, I learn so much more valuable, like, ideas and growth, and that's where true growth really changes, right? And yeah, if you're having your own type of situation, or if you're even having something that is either more minor, or if it's a lot more severe and worse, the thing that I can say is that people have gone through harder shit than you, and that it comes really from a place of humility and gratitude to realize that people have gone through harder stuff, and they have been able to make themselves live a life better than anything that you could even dream of. So why can't you do that, and why don't you do that, right? Like, stand up for yourself and look at fear in the face, and don't hold back, and don't run away from it, and really speak your truth to it and attack it, even if you have missteps along the way, or even if you encounter something that doesn't seem doable, or that seems impossible, that you really can't conquer. Still do it. Because if you give up to it in the first place, then you're just a coward. And I don't think anyone really wants to live a cowardly life. And if you do, then this channel really isn't for you. That's all I can say to that. But again, this is a channel mainly for young men and women if you like to take more of this type of advice, but specifically for some more harder truths that guys have to deal with without the content of sleeping around with a lot of women and all of that type of stuff, where there's a lot of those higher known YouTube channels that you could say. And while they do have great points, when it comes to women, they're very hurt and they're very injured from them, and they haven't learned how to heal from that trauma. And so they're just putting that trauma onto other people, and they're making unnecessary problems occur because of how many people listen to them, and then the advice that they give is incorrect in a lot of ways. So yeah, just kind of a quick update on that. And just remember, guys, don't be an airhead, be aware and ahead. Thanks. I'll talk to you later.